Good afternoon, everyone. Today is December 9th, and this is Conversations from Stritch. We are really excited to be back for another episode. I am joined by Dr. Christopher Sint, who always joins me here, our provost. Just a few quick announcements as we begin the show. We're very excited, and we may talk about this a little more later, about the President's Circle Dinner, which is tomorrow night. This is an event where we are able to acknowledge and celebrate the contributions of some of our people who give back to the university. Many of them are trustees of ours, alumni of ours, who support scholarships here at Lewis or facilities or improvements to campus. And we want to be able to say thanks. So we'll have several student testimonials about the way in which those gifts are making a difference in the lives of our students. So a really enjoyable evening with some of the friends of the university. And speaking of celebrating with friends, today is our Christmas party. So for all of our faculty and staff, please join Chris and I over in Stritch Hall. We will be, even if you didn't RSVP as an employee, please come over and join us for the Christmas party. Pick up your ornament, your Lewis ornament, and celebrate with some of your colleagues. So it'll be from 2 to 7 in Stritch Hall. We also want to wish everybody an incredible, I'll say this at the end again, but as we move into next week with finals, this is our last show of the year of 2021. But we want to wish everyone an incredibly joy-filled Advent season, as well as Christmas, Hanukkah, all the celebrations that are going on over this holiday season. We have a diverse student body and faculty, and there's many religious traditions that celebrate this time of year. We, in my family, celebrate Christmas, and we're excited to celebrate that incarnational moment for the church and for our world. So, Chris, I know you have some announcements and some things about commencement. That's what's amazing is we've gotten through this whole semester and we're coming up on the graduation for hundreds of our students.
That's right. So that's thank you and hello everyone. Great to be with you. We are coming to the end of the semester, and we will, our students are concluding their classes this week and next week during finals, and we will be doing commencement next weekend. So I just wanted to make because this is our last show, make some final announcements about commencement. First of all, we have a very clear and easy to understand website, so we'll show that at lewisu.edu commencement. But a couple things I'll just say out loud. Commencement weekend begins on Friday, December 17th with the graduate degree ceremony at 7 p.m. at the Student Recreation and Fitness Center Field House. Graduates can receive up to 4 tickets, and they're available, they became available on December 6th. So go to the website to see those. And then on the morning of Saturday, December 18th, we have our commencement mass at 9 a.m. in the Sancta Alberta Chapel. Graduates of all faith traditions and their families are invited to celebrate at the commencement mass at 9 a.m. in the chapel. The celebrant will be Father Dennis Lewandowski, the university chaplain. And for those planning on attending the commencement mass in person, please RSVP by December 15th. The mass will also be streamed live that morning, and we'll send the link out. And then later that same morning, we'll have the first of 2 undergraduate degree ceremonies. The first is at 11 a.m., again in the field house in the Student Recreation and Fitness Center. And that first undergraduate celebration honors our graduates in the College of Aviation, Science and Technology, the College of Business, and the College of Humanities, Fine Arts, and Communications. And then later that same afternoon, we'll have our second ceremony at 2 p.m., same place in the field house, honoring the graduates in the College of Education and Social Sciences and the College of Nursing and Health Sciences. So as I said, tickets are available on the website, and also visitors need to fill out the COVID screening form before attending commencement events. So that's it. It's a lot
great.
going on next weekend. And
So Chris, just I guess a couple, acting as maybe a student or a parent that might be watching this. So what about sense of like COVID related things? I mean, you said fill out the screening, but is there anything additional? I don't have to bring my vaccine card to get in. But what are we doing extra? So we're going to have 1,000 people in a room.
Right.
Just give me a little sense of, kind of as a family, how are we trying to react to this, and how does it totally in line with what we do every day here on campus?
Yeah, it is in alignment with our typical event protocol that we've had all semester. We take all of the COVID precautions that I know many viewers are familiar with by now in terms of cleaning the space. We'll clean the space in between the events, of course, during that weekend. There will be spacing in the field house between seats. There will be ways for families who are more knowledgeable about each other's health status to sit closer together, but also to create space between. There'll be spacing between graduates and faculty members and other members who are in the audience. The screening form that we do, our current visitor policy around COVID has to do with filling out the screening form I mentioned. So that form asks questions about COVID status, about symptoms, and so on, and obviously advises people against attending events if they are symptomatic or have recently tested positive for COVID. And then it's also really, really important to fill that out, because if there is, for some reason, a positive case connected in the community, we need to know who's on campus. That's the other purpose for that. And then I don't think I said out loud that face coverings are required at all campus events.
Right, and so then the second thing that I just wanted to say really quickly was 4 tickets for all 3 ceremonies. That's what each graduate will get. Both allows us to give a little extra space between groups,
Right.
But also want to make sure that people are aware. And another shout out to our producers here. So John and Joe and all the students. It is live streaming. You said that already,
Right.
but I want to reemphasize that.
Yeah.
So you might get 4 tickets. You might have 12 people that want to attend. Hold a party at your grandma's house. Have all your aunts and uncles come over there. They can watch it live stream, and then you can show up, a half an hour after the ceremony and celebrate with them. So there is, it's not perfect. We'd love to give everybody 20 tickets if they wanted them, but there is that option of having 4 of your closest relatives go, and then everybody else watch live stream, and then you can get back together. So any other
We've
things
also,
about commencement?
The other thing that's going on over this period that's connected to commencement is that many of the individual academic departments are doing honors ceremonies or just celebrations of their graduates, and that's another way of smaller events that are possibly have fewer restrictions in terms of attendance for family members to attend. And we've both been to a few of those this week, and many more next week, and they're always just really fun and great ways for families, for students to connect with faculty one more time before commencement, and also for families to meet professors and other members of the departmental communities and other students in the department. So I encourage people to go to those as well, and our professors do an amazing job and staff in the departments do an amazing job of putting on events to honor their graduates all over this 2 or 3 week period.
Yeah, I think we have about a dozen of those events. So I agree with you. Really want to push people to say, go and attend, and say hello to your faculty, and invite your the family who might not be able to attend. Maybe you split. If you have 8 people, maybe 4 of them go to the biology celebration and 4 go to the commencement itself. Great recommendation.
So some other news about our community. I would like to say congratulations to Associate Professor of Education, Dr. Jung Kim, who has published a book called The Racialized Experiences of Asian American Teachers in the U.S., published by Routledge Press, and drawing on in-depth interviews. This book examines how Asian American teachers in the United States have adapted, persisted, and resisted racial stereotyping and systematic marginalization throughout their educational and professional careers as teachers. I guess I want to pause about that because we announce news every week about faculty accomplishments, and all of our faculty are doing scholarship and amazing things, but I do want to pause and say that is a huge deal.
It is,
that
and
I just
Rutledge is an
announced.
amazing press.
It's the nation's biggest, most prestigious publisher of academic research, and on a very important topic. And I believe it's a co-authored book, and with another colleague of Dr. Kim's. But it's a really great accomplishment, and I'm sure it will have a lot of influence across the country as people start reading it and being influenced by it. Dr. Catherine Helm, the director of graduate programs in counseling and professor of psychology, was recently featured as an expert in mental health expert breaks down coping skills by stress caused by racism, posted on the blackwallstreettimes.com. Dr. Hannah Klein, assistant professor of justice law and public safety studies, presented her paper, Community Violence with Cumulative Risk as a Gang Involvement Driver, at the American Society of Criminology conference in Chicago a couple weeks ago. And then finally, for the third consecutive year, the American Association for Men in Nursing, AAMN, recognized Lewis University as being one of the best schools for men in nursing. The honor was bestowed upon our College of Nursing and Health Sciences during the 46th annual AAMN conference a few weeks ago. So that's a great accomplishment to be an inclusive environment for men going into the field of nursing in our nursing community, and it takes a lot of work to create those opportunities in that inclusive environment. So congratulations to our whole nursing department.
Yeah, and I guess as I switch over to some comments about athletics, just a comment on that. I think, and I want to give real credit to you, Chris, all of our deans, really all of our, managers across the institution, because I think on this front, we do such an amazing job. Actually, Dr. Christy Kelly, of course, leads the charge in some ways on this, but on diversity and inclusion in the sense that men in nursing, women in the hard sciences, women in aviation, there's ways in which Lewis not only works really hard on issues of gender and race, generally speaking, on those diversity issues, but also on this issue of fields that really can benefit from having a more diverse population in those professions. And I think Lewis gets acknowledged for this, not just in men in nursing, but in other areas on a regular basis. So very proud of all the work that you and Dr. Kelly and others have been doing in that area. So I want to just mention on the athletic front, after a really exciting, successful fall season, and we've talked about many of these accomplishments, women's volleyball, soccer, tennis, golf, bowling, and swimming are slowing down a bit for the holiday season. So some of them have a kind of fall season, spring season in some of those areas. Some of them have completed their entire season. But we just really want to congratulate all the athletes and thank the coaches and the trainers and the administrators in athletics for really creating an environment still within the COVID confines to have really successful seasons, but also a safe season. We had a really incredibly safe season across the spectrum of hundreds of contests across all those sports. So thank you and congratulations to all of our student athletes. Last night we had a victory for our women's basketball team against the University of St. Francis. They've now won 2 in a row and play next on December 20th against Grand Valley State. Our men's basketball teams also has won 2 straight, and they play St. Francis on December 16th. So we're excited about that kind of crosstown rivalry. Got 1 under our belt with a win against St. Francis and hoping for a sweep this year. If you want to keep up to date, especially over the break, there are some athletic contests, not as many as usual, but there will be some before we start classes back up. You can visit lewisflyers.com or follow at lewisflyers on Twitter. So COVID, we're still, as I mentioned, we made it through, I think, the athletics well, but COVID is still an issue for us. So Chris, tell us a little bit about what's going on.
So as we head into finals week, please remain vigilant in living the Flyers promise on and off campus. And we have our rates continue to be elevated in the Will County area, and the Omicron variant is present in Illinois. Stay healthy by getting rest, stay well hydrated, wear face coverings indoors, wash hands, and get vaccinated or a booster as appropriate. So here's a little bit of information on the screen. Our cases for this week are at 445 per 100,000, which is really an increase over the time. And our positive cases connected to the Lewis community include 21 cases last week, 14 this week. The vaccination rates in Will County have gone up to 62%, and our own community remains steady at 91% with almost everyone reporting. So thank you again for engagement with reporting in the COVID-19 protocols that we have on campus. And we are, as I said, interested in monitoring the growth in Will County and in the region. A few more reminders. Vaccinations are required for the spring semester. We will require testing for move-in, and residential students have already received notifications about that, and we'll continue to get more information. We will continue to do weekly testing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Wednesdays. We will not do testing on Wednesday, December 22nd, and we will resume testing in January, but we'll put out more announcements about exactly what dates we're doing testing and not doing testing as we transition. We will also be providing shuttles to testing sites for students who are living on campus over the Christmas vacation. A reminder that unvaccinated people who are unvaccinated in our community need to submit a test result on Thursday nights at 6 p.m. And as I said before, we encourage the booster and the vaccination for as appropriate for what you've done so far. It's our best protection against the growth in COVID-19 in the region. So we are now going to shift gears and welcome our guest. Our guest this week is Brother James Gaffney. He does not need much of an introduction for most of the people watching, but maybe someone is out there going, who is this man, Brother James? So I will do a little bit of that. Brother James was the president of Lewis University from 1988 until his retirement in 2016. He is now President Emeritus. This 28-year period is the longest tenure ever for any president at any LaSallian University in the United States. During his years of service at Lewis, he showed support for the promotion of scholarship, innovative academic offerings, outstanding teaching, academic success, and educating the whole person. Brother James has also had a significant impact on the wider Catholic higher education community, and among his countless awards, he was honored by the Association of Catholic Colleges and Universities with the Reverend Theodore M. Hesburgh, CSC Award on February 6th, 2021. So welcome, Brother James.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Great
Brother
to be
James.
with you. Thank you very much.
So glad to have you. And I just want to note, before we get into, we want to have a conversation about several things today, but I just want to note that the Ted Hesburgh Award, for people that don't know this, and not everybody would know that, is the highest award. Only one person receives it every year in all of Catholic higher education. And you received it last year, and it was an amazing, tribute. Our people here, again, John involved in that, made a great video to kind of tell your story. Amazing kind of legacy here and across the country. And really, because I also now serve on, and maybe we can talk about this later, the IALU board, but not just in the United States, globally in terms of Catholic higher education, you have left such a mark. So we are amazingly fortunate. A positive mark. We are amazingly lucky to have you having led Lewis University for nearly 3 decades and continue to be an influence on LaSallian higher ed, serving on multiple boards. But welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
You're very gracious. I give the same spiel anytime I meet anyone, basically students on campus, people at Jewel store, tell them, do you know about the Ted Hesburgh Award?
Yeah, right.
Of course.
Move on, buddy. Move on.
So last Monday, you were there, and we dedicated the Brother Leo Jones Circle to honor Brother Leo, who passed away almost a year ago. The right outside that tree. So for people that walk by, the tree that's lit up, there's a nice, beautiful little piece there now with a plaque. But maybe you could talk a little bit about Brother Leo and the impact that he had. You knew him for decades. So maybe you could talk a little bit about him, the honoring of him, and his influence on the community.
Yes, I'd be delighted to, and thank you so much on behalf of the brothers and on behalf of so many students at the university and various high schools where Brother Leo was involved in leadership. It was a marvelous initiative on the part of the university, and so we're very appreciative, surprised, because he was such a humble person. He would never have thrust himself in that way. I just stopped coming over. I was a little bit early, so I stopped, as I do at the encounter, but also at this new memorial to him in the Brother Leo Circle. So that's really wonderful. He appropriately, in that beautifully worded plaque, it recognized that he was such a compassionate person, a jovial person, delightful sense of humor, but a real humanitarian. And he took great interest in international students above all, but any students, but international in particular. And I wondered to myself, why was that exactly? He was gracious, he's kind. Dalzell talked about loving your students by showing concern and reaching out to them, especially when they struggle in some way. He was head of several schools. He was principal of St. Joseph High School for 20 years or more in Westchester. He was the head of the retreat center in Plano, LaSalle Manor. But after he did that, he volunteered to go to Europe and to England in particular, and they were not starting a new center, but they wanted to expand considerably their retreat program. So he was on loan, as it were, for 3 years. He got to know international students, obviously, their parents, staff members, and so forth, and really opened up the world to him a lot more. And then slightly before and then definitely afterwards, he began the tradition of taking about 15 students a year, St. Joseph High School, to England or Ireland or Italy, and he'd always be helped by one other faculty member or staff. So he became truly a global person. And of course, the brothers and our colleagues, the brothers of the Christian schools, were in 80 countries. It's truly an international religious order with some 1,000 schools and 65 or more universities. He really caught that spirit. So it was deeply appreciated by them. And then we began more of an effort at inviting and recruiting international students to the university. So it went from minuscule to a considerably larger number. Now, congratulations, overflowing. It's just tremendous. So he was always a presence in the lives of so many of the students. Just very hospitable. The brothers' residence, he would have students in for lunch or play cards in the evening or pizzas or whatever, and get others of us involved as well. But he had a unique ability to recognize when people were struggling, away from home, cultural adjustments, maybe financial, academics, whatever, relational, whatever it might be. And without putting them on the spot, very subtly, he would reach out to them, and they always knew that he was there for them and would be a support to them, which was just marvelous. And so, for instance, one of the things he did, rather unique, is he was real close to his family in Iowa. And so he would invite the students 2, 3 at a time to go with them at holiday time, perhaps, or if he just sensed that they needed to get away for a while, see another part of the country. And so his family, even to this day, there's one of his nephews and his wife, they refer to their family, the lovely family, the Jones family, but also to their LaSallian family.
Oh, that's great.
Because over the years, he brought dozens of students. And so as the kids were growing up, now adults, they got to know international students, a sense of different cultures and so forth. And in one of the homes, there's actually something on the wall, and they had each international student sign her or his name.
That's awesome.
That's
And
great.
so to this day, they're in contact with them on a regular basis. And actually, there's 4 dozen names on that list.
Wonderful.
So that was typical of him. And one of the things he did at the conclusion of his beautiful life, he died during the COVID episode. Right. He had a heart condition, and so that just was compounded by COVID. And he was in the hospital, he thought for a short time, and then they needed to put him in intensive care and ventilator and so forth. And he knew that he was coming to the conclusion of his life. And he did it with great peace. But something else he did that I've never seen or heard about before is within the last, well, it was the final 2 days of his life. He kind of rallied his energy, his support, and he had dozens of people around the world, Ireland, England, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, just all over the world, and then many here. And he actually got them to set up a camera. And he was able to Zoom or whatever, he was able to call dozens of people to say goodbye.
Wow.
Oh, it was just so touching, so powerful. And just to say how much he loved them and how much he cared about them. And that was just, when the funeral was held, the funeral mass at St. Charles Borromeo, not only were there, because of COVID, a limited number, but still 500, or as many as we can get in without getting in trouble. There were 2,000 people watching around the world.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
It's
so
amazing.
just a marvelous brother. And it says to all of us, our lay colleagues, the brothers, that our great calling is to bring love, concern, compassion, and support to our students and whatever their needs are. So thank you for asking.
Thank you so much. He's
Thank you for sharing that.
absolute inspiration to us. You mentioned some of the stories you just told involved students visiting the brothers in their residence,
Yes.
and I'm a little curious. During the COVID episode has gone on for so long, I feel like there's been not as much opportunity for
Absolutely.
connection. And I guess maybe my first question about that is just how are the brothers doing here who live on campus, live in the community here?
There's 17 of us, and I think doing well. We were so cooperative and caring, protective of ourselves, as all families were meant to be. And until it was Brother Leo. He went to a doctor's, healthcare provider drove him. The doctor was coughing, the nurse was coughing, the aide at the desk was coughing. The next day that office closed and wasn't open again for weeks and weeks. Wow. And within a day and a half, he and she were hospitalized. So that brought the COVID into our residence. Everyone had it, but save one or two. Fortunately, no one, well, not real seriously. A couple others were hospitalized, but just out of precaution. And we're doing very well. And now opening up more, obviously, and again, with the encouragement and expectation, people have had the vaccination, and that's important. It was very nice springtime, late springtime, summer, early fall. We have that beautiful patio. And so it was easy to have faculty, staff, students over and be outside with them, and they really appreciated that as well.
That's great.
So maybe just, I mentioned earlier that you served in leadership on IALU. So maybe you could, because I'm going to use the acronym and let you describe what it actually is. And then maybe you could talk a little bit about, I'd like to connect that into this. You mentioned the international scope of the LaSallian world, but they're coming up to a general chapter. So maybe you could talk a little bit about LaSallian Higher Ed and IALU, and then maybe a little bit about the brothers in terms of the organization. Like, what is a general chapter? Like, who would go to that, and why do they do it? So could you talk a little bit about that?
No, I really don't have time. I want to get back to talking about myself. Well, the general chapter is held every, it's 10 years, and now it's 7 years. Actually, this year, because of COVID, it was pushed back for 8 years. They couldn't call people to Rome because they couldn't have an assembly of individuals, and many of them couldn't leave their country or get into Italy. So it's actually not happening until the middle and end of May. So the general chapter is just an opportunity for the brothers to step back and reflect on where is the Lord calling now, and what are the challenges and the opportunities, and discerning really what is the mission, how do we best carry it out together with our colleagues. And it's changed so much over the years, because now there are lay colleagues who are at the chapter and provide a wonderful perspective. There's immense amount of consultation ahead of time in various forms, including just asking people, what is your perception and what is your encouragement? But then a lot of international groups that meet to again discern and reflect and then give emphasis and affirmation. And one of the groups is the ELU. That's the International Association of our leadership groups for the universities and colleges around the world. And actually, we have, as I say, 65, 66, and more are being asked for. We just had an archbishop on campus from Africa, Malawi, a week and a half ago, and he said, well, when are you going to open the university in our country? And if not that, at least several high schools that for which we need a religious order. And so it's a marvelous group. The presidents have come together for 35, 40 years or so, and we do it around the world. You've attended several yourself, several meetings. You're on the board now, which is a real commendation for your leadership. And we talk about the one world, one Lasallian world collaboration, and so much is happening now internationally. That would be probably a conversation unto itself. But the leadership group is representative of the various continents where we have universities. And in the United States, actually, we have 6, and we're among the earliest. It's a contention as to whether or not Lasallian higher ed began in France, or began in New York City, or began in Philadelphia. So each fudge a little bit.
Each one claims
it, exactly.
Sure,
there's shenanigans for sure. So
there's no competition among the brothers, is there?
Oh, hardly.
Never. That would never happen.
But we have what, 1 million students around the world, and now a third or better are in higher ed. When we began, of course, 300 and some years ago, 40 years ago or so, it was elementary. That was, if you got through a couple of years of elementary education, you were fortunate and blessed. And then eventually high schools, and it became a real concentration. As I said, we have 1,000 institutions, and most of them are high schools. Of course, in a lot of countries, they actually begin, like in the Philippines, with age 5, and they all the way up to doctoral degrees on the same campus. So there's so much collaboration now among students and faculty and institutions. It's just wonderful to see. And I think we have, I'll say it because, unless you contradict me, I think we have the second largest number of universities and colleges sponsored by a religious order anywhere in the world.
I believe that's true.
I think that's true.
We won't even name the other group, but there's another group.
There's another group that's a few more.
There's a few more.
Right.
But we're not going to talk about
No, not at all. They're failed institutions, basically.
So true.
Wait a minute, you have a doctorate degree?
Yeah, I do, right? We don't need to get into that, right?
No, exactly. So that's just so, it's just a wonderful new phenomenon. And the general chapter will reflect that in the representation, in the agenda, in the visioning for the next 7-10 years. And I think that increasingly the Pope has called us to that, really, to live at the margins, to reach out to individuals. And that's why there's such a concentration now on trying to provide universities. Our newest one is Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. Small right now, 300, 400 students, but it's the Catholic university of that part of the world. And so it will eventually be 10 times that size, I'm sure. So the chapter will attend to all that, give encouragement, sharpen the vision, and hopefully collect resources towards making all that more effective.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That sounds great.
Yes.
So this is, we were just talking about your role on, several actually LaSallian University boards.
Yes.
I used to be on the Yalu leadership, ran that for a while. But you're not bored in retirement, is my sense, having talked to you a few times. Like, you have a few other boards that you're on. You have a few other things you do in the community. Could you talk a little bit about, one, kind of how has retirement been? How has it changed your life? But I know you're so active still. So talk a little bit about what you're doing. A lot of people watching this are huge fans of yours. They've loved you for 3 decades. They miss you, and are interested in kind of how's retirement been and what are you doing with your life? And as I said, I know, having talked to you on a regular basis, that you are an incredibly busy man even in retirement. So tell me a little bit about what's going on.
Surely. I was anticipating, in concluding the service here, I was anticipating a period of time where I could kind of discern, maybe experience things that I had not experienced, a little bit more travel perhaps. I actually thought I would go to a lot of sporting events at Lewis where, like you, I'm sure you're lucky you can stay for 20 minutes or concerts and so forth, all the plays. And I was just thrust right into, oh, you're available now. so I do. I'm on the St. Mary's board in California, and that's a very demanding role and leadership position for them. And they've gone through transition, and a lot of wonderful things are occurring. It's a real privilege to be in support of what they're doing. And I served at LaSalle in Philadelphia for 28 years, actually beyond being president at Lewis. And it's amazing. They said, well, how do you serve for 28 years? I said, well, I was just grandfathered, and they never did an election again. Yeah, exactly. So even now, I'm doing some consultation for them as they go through a transition. But then other institutions have asked me, some of our high schools as example, and I chair several of those, a couple of 3 or 4 LaSallian organizations. And then probably the biggest consumption of energy and time would be community director at LaSalle House, and then in a leadership role for the province, also in the Midwest, and then doing some things for the brothers nationally as they restructure and redirect and attempt to engage more and more of the 100,000 lay colleagues who now are in a position, fortunately, to carry on the mission and to continue to be engaged in all things LaSallian. So that takes a lot of time, but the local community, because we're are so pleased when the house was built, which, like the prior one, it's right in the center campus. So the message is that we're not a monastery, we're not off to the distance, we're not closed at all, and hospitality is an essential part of who we are. Right. So consequently, that does take a lot of a little bit of collaboration with the province and with the university, a lot of hospitality, and then just general organization. It's not terribly demanding with a staff of 4 and 17 brothers in comparison to heading the university. It's a little bit more complex. So all that's for the good, and I would say it's just the right amount, given health and age and so forth. I really don't feel overwhelmed in terms of time consumption, never by the tasks, but delighted to still be of service, and pleased not to be necessarily always in the lead, and so all worthwhile.
Wonderful.
Yes, and more time for family too, which I was provincial for 10 years, prior 11 years, and that was challenging, head of the Christian Brothers in the Midwest region, and then the university. So it was almost as if it wasn't at all, and actually I'm really good at connecting with family, but it was almost like, okay, I'll see you again in 41 years. Right. So they said, now this is the time. You're not in any of those positions anymore. And I really am very present to the family and bring them together in a lot of ways.
That's great news.
Yeah, it's all good. And then concerts. I was at a concert from California, San Francisco, the Chanticleers downtown at Fourth Presbyterian 2 nights ago in a restaurant in one of the hotels. So I do that. I've got the symphony, the Chicago Symphony, a few times a year, and then the opera, of course. And so Architectural Society. I love giving tours of Chicago. Yeah. So all is well. That's great. So thank you.
That's great.
So I forgot to mention earlier that we have a Ask Us at lewis.edu for people who are watching live can ask a question.
Of Brother James.
And also a reminder that if you are watching this recorded and do have a question for Brother James or for us about commencement or any COVID or anything else, please use that, still use that, and we will respond to the email or send it along to whoever might know the answer to the question. Right. But we did get a question for Brother James, which is about some of the things you are, kind of subtext of some of what you already mentioned, is how can Lewis remain LaSallian in the future when there may not be as many brothers physically present on the campus?
Yes, and that will happen. The brothers we no longer have the numbers that we had before. On the other hand, in Africa, in South America, in Asia, the vocations are rather abundant. And so that's really encouraging. And we've worked at inviting young men to join us, to consider that. They're no longer like we did 40, 50, 60 years ago, except 18-year-olds, 17, they're all college educated, oftentimes graduate students and beyond. So there is new life, and that will be encouraging. I was talking to someone the other day, and they mentioned 2 of our young brothers you'll want to keep this in mind, are both very inclined towards doctoral work and theology at that.
Really?
Yes,
Great.
theology.
That's great.
So one has actually begun, and the other one is very capable. So I think that the brothers have, with our lay associates, we really have put a lot of resources into formation programs,
Absolutely,
mission-centered, and what is that Lasallian heritage, and how can we together in association now carry it forward? And that's the key. We'll always, I think, have some brothers at Lewis, and hopefully in the future more, and that will be encouraging. We actually could bring in a number of brothers from international if we want to, but their needs are critical also. And so I think that now, especially post-COVID again, a number of these programs to help deepen one's understanding and commitment and enthusiasm for what the mission is and how we can best carry it out together, and the impact it has on our students and society and the church is a major commitment financially, but also in terms of the leadership effort that goes into it, the creativity and so forth. So it's just amazing. There literally are dozens of initiatives now for LaSallians at every level, and in every level of responsibility to be engaged in. So it's no longer us. We're in our rule. It always spoke about the brothers as the guarantors, the heart of the ministry. But now it's not the case. It's all of us together, and there's no reason to think the brothers have to be engaged in leadership in large numbers everywhere to still animate, to encourage, to witness to. I remember I was provincial for a period of time. And I remember in the early years, we thought we couldn't run a high school like in the Chicago area if we didn't have a dozen brothers. Well, no, you have these marvelous women and men who are equally committed and dedicated and competent, and together we can make the difference. And so now, if there are 3 or 4 brothers, talking to a brother from Ethiopia the other day, huge school, very large high school. Well, how many brothers? 4. But they're well placed, they're well prepared, but they also have made commitments to advance the understanding and the capabilities of really wonderful women and men, LaSallians. And so it is together and by association. Lewis was the first institution in the world to declare that we're a LaSallian institution. Catholic and Lasallian tradition in reality. Frankly, before it was a brother's school, it's a brother's university. No, it's Lasallian, and that's symbolized maybe in front of the transition exactly.
Well, I must say, and I think I speak for all of my colleagues. I know because Chris and I have had these conversations that the two of us feel this way, but it's an incredible privilege, and I feel incredibly honored that the brothers have viewed the charism in that way, that it's a shared ministry, and that those of us as lay people have been honored to carry that tradition on. It's a huge responsibility. I will say it was not a small thing to follow after you. I don't but you are larger than life, and taking on that role was a little beyond humbling for me. But I think all of us, there's about 1,000 of us, including our adjuncts and part-time people that work here at Lewis in association with the brothers to serve our students. And it's just such a privilege to be given that. But I do think we all feel, the person who asked the question, I'm sure probably an employee who is feeling like, how do we keep being LaSallian? Because I take such pride in connecting to the brothers, and I take such inspiration from the brothers, and I worry. But I do think the brothers have done a great job. And I want to, shout out to Dr. Kurt Shackmuth, who really leads for Lewis that issue of passing on the tradition through formation, the ELM program, and all sorts of other things, as well as you mentioned earlier, the Encounter. I mean, I was so proud that in the kind of international scope on one of that LaSallian magazines, the Encounter was on the front page. I don't remember. I think it was 2 or 3 versions ago.
Back.
Right.
Yes.
So people have really found that to be a really powerful symbol.
Isn't that so? Yes.
But anyway, we're just so privileged.
And I just want to say in my 21 years of LaSallian, my career has been all in LaSallian education, and I'm the huge beneficiary of that switch to that terminology that you mentioned, and the dedication to inform and the lay population in a way that is motivating and rich. And it's great to hear that the brothers are available in the basement, and that
Yes.
there's nothing quite like you can get all kinds of training and information and connection, and
Sure.
but it's really wonderful to know that the brothers are available for members of our community to talk to and
Oh, absolutely,
continue
right.
to be inspired
Sure,
by.
even for those who are beyond teaching years.
Yeah, absolutely.
They certainly still can be very supportive and take great pride in yourselves, in your colleagues, and what you've continued and enhanced, not just continued, but enhanced.
Yeah. Any last minute comments you want to make? Because we're about to wrap up the show, so I just wanted to, anything you want to say to the audience, or share with us about anything that we didn't ask, that we forgot to ask.
Well, I
you.
wanted to thank you again. I was the one the last year, actually, who every one of these would be using that S. Loziu to, why don't you have Brother James on the program? A whole year.
That question that we ignored for a whole year, that
Never
one?
signed it. Too humble for that.
Oh, boy.
No, Lewis is just such a gift and has been a pioneer, really, in all things LaSallian and Catholic and ecumenical at the same time. And it's obvious from afar, but not so far away, that mission is valued and cherished by people throughout the institution. And I hope that I know it will continue to be such a priority for yourselves as the two key leaders for the institution. So thank you and much encouragement.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, so I want a couple reminders as we close off. We won't be, this is our last show of 2021, so we'll be off for about a month. We'll return on January 13th. I again want to remind people we have the Christmas open house for employees. Brother James, are you going to be able to join
I
us?
should be able to.
All right, so if you had questions that you weren't able to ask on
good
Ask
idea.
Us,
We're
you
gonna
can
sit him in
corner
a
Brother
chair
James
and-
in a chair in Stritch Hall and ask
Hot
him the
cider,
question that
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, keep him there.
Have a glass of wine or a cider with Brother James this afternoon. And again, join your colleagues. It's been a really great year, and we are looking forward to what 2022 will bring for us as a university. I want to, as always, wish everybody an incredible holiday season, a Merry Christmas, and many blessings to you and your family. Have a great Christmas and a wonderful New Year.